Hello, welcome back to a new reading vlog. My name is Mariah. Today I am doing a genre-based reading vlog. This is brought on by the life events that have occurred recently. Things have occurred recently in my life and I wanted cozy books. And I've never really read too many cozy books. I've thought about doing videos like this in the past with like romantasy and other genres or subgenres that I haven't personally delved into. So I figured since I'm gonna be reading cozy books, I might as well make my first one of these vlogs. So I ended up actually reading a lot of Japanese translated healing fiction or cozy books. I'm not sure if all of these would necessarily fall into the healing fiction category, but that is what I did, what I read, and hopefully I can make more of these videos because like I said, there's other genres that I haven't really read, from romantasy being one of them, and that I do have a couple of options on my shelf for, though I'm also not entirely sure how much I'll love that genre. We'll have to see. Maybe I chose some good ones, maybe I didn't. So hopefully if this video goes well, then we can make another, but today we are diving into the cozy books, specifically Japanese translated fiction, and I started with Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and this is my first read for this video. I will not spoil the remaining ones I have already filmed, but I will let you guys see what my opening thoughts are for this. Hello. New angle. What's up? I'm in the bedroom having some quality time with ferrets, one of which is digging. I have a fun little patchwork of rugs in my apartment now because of them, because they will tear up the carpet. They have torn up the carpet, but we're still gonna try and minimize that. So she's currently digging on one of them. We have Miss Ma'am. Isn't she so lovely? So I am here with my first update. I am about halfway through, well, I am halfway through Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This is, I mean, I feel like a lot of people know this. I think this is kind of leaning towards less cozy fiction, which is what I wanted when I started this. I actually looked up like a list of cozy books, and this was the first one I owned that showed up, but I'm not really getting cozy vibes. I think this is kind of leaning towards healing fiction, which I've never read before, and I do have a few others on my shelves, so I think I'm gonna probably pick up those after this and just kind of make this genre dedicated video about Japanese translated healing fiction. I know there's some Korean ones that I want to pick up too, but I don't currently own those. But if you do not know, this is a series of short stories all centering around a coffee shop where people can travel back in time, but only for the amount of time it takes for their coffee to get cold. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of short stories. I did conceptually just really think this was interesting, so that's why I picked it up anyways. I will admit, like, maybe the short story aspect is part of it, maybe not, but this for me is not hitting the same way. I feel like it's been portrayed by a lot of other people. I've seen people cry, which I mean, I'm only halfway through. I very well could, but I don't know why this would be on the cozy list if people are crying over it. I mean, that's a choice. I don't know who put the list together. It was on Goodreads, so I don't know if it was Goodreads who did that, in which case rude, or if it was just a random person. But the first story involved a woman who wanted to go back in time to speak to her ex-boyfriend, and I didn't particularly love that one. It was a lot of exposition because you're learning the rules of the coffee shop, and there are rules. You have to be in like a specific seat. Obviously there's the time limit. You can't actually change anything in the present, so there's no worries of having like kind of a paradox there. And I don't mind the explanation, but I found the main character of this specific story to be really annoying, especially when learning about the rules. She just seemed perturbed by them and disappointed that there were rules. I found her to be immature, especially considering like who she was. A very smart woman, worked in a very prestigious kind of career, so I didn't think that really lined up with who like factually she was, and then her personality being the way it was. But ultimately the story did end like kind of on a happy note, so I do see how this falls into that healing fiction category where you're not maybe getting everything you possibly wanted out of it, or the main character isn't, but they're getting something that they need. Same with the second story. Obviously the main character in this is not changing anything, but the second story does have to do with Alzheimer's, which is again another choice to have as a topic in a cozy book, or an allegedly cozy book. I did like the second story better. They actually focused on characters that we'd briefly seen in the first story, so I thought that was really interesting. I like the main character a lot more, and obviously the discussion of early onset Alzheimer's. She's going back in time to speak with her husband, and she's getting, this one is especially healing to me because it's not technically a happy ending. It's a bittersweet moment, but she's getting what she needs in terms of like validation of her current relationship with her husband, having felt like she no longer was his wife, that she was just gonna set aside that piece of her identity to care for him as a kind of a third party that wasn't related, and then coming to the conclusion that she can still care for him and acknowledge that maybe he'll one day continue to forget things and forget her, but that does not erase her identity as his wife and her love for him. So that one was really sweet. I did enjoy that one a lot more, but again, it just doesn't, it's not hitting me emotionally the way I kind of have been led to believe it would. There are two other stories. It's the sisters and the mother and child. I do think the sisters is probably going to follow a character that we've seen, because we've met all the like regulars in this coffee shop and the employees. There is a regular that it's been mentioned she has a strained relationship with her sister, and I assume that that's going to follow her. I do not know about the mother and child. I guess it's possible that it could be a character we've seen, the mother that is, but that would be a spoiler, so I'm not going to mention that. So, but yeah, those are my thoughts so far. It's not really giving the cozy vibes, but it's still an intriguing concept, and it's a very quick read. So I'm going to read the next two short stories and come back to you, tell you how I feel, and maybe feel a little happier, because I have been having a rough time this month. For now, I'm gonna do something that makes me happy, and I'm gonna go play with my ferrets, one of which has been running around in circles this entire time, so you might have heard her. Oh, here she comes. It's the baby. Hi. She's back. She's back. She's back, and she's as funky as of. I don't know if I've fully explained Juniper's issues. Juniper, this is her. She is actually paraplegic, so, or she has nerve damage. She's not technically paraplegic. She'll move her back legs, but she can't use them the way that a normal ferret would be able to. So she's a little funky. She still gets around really fast anyways. I love her. If you've ever, like, she's been in a lot of my B-roll, so if you're ever wondering why she walks like that, that is the reason why. Hello, I'm back in the bedroom with the ferrets. I got him some little stairs, like pet stairs, so he can get on the bed easier, because I have a problem. I love them so much. But I am here to update that I did in fact finish Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. I did come around to liking it a bit more in the end. I have to say, I don't think I'm the biggest fan of short story collections. I do have a few more on my TBR just because they pique my interest, but I've never come across one that really does it for me. And I mean, this also didn't pack like an emotional punch for me the way that I feel like it has for a lot of people. But I did find the final two stories, Sisters and Mother and Daughter, to be really nice. I liked seeing, you know, character growth, dealing with grief and kind of moving past that, or creating like a happier life for yourself, kind of things like that. It overall has like a nice message, and I did find myself kind of smiling a little bit at the end because there were sweet moments, even though it was like a bittersweet situation. It wasn't overall super happy, but it ends on a positive note. I will say, like, as far as cozy goes, I don't think I really get cozy vibes from this book. Cozy to me is more of like an atmosphere, and this coffee shop, to me, it just wasn't giving that atmosphere. Maybe because it's like in a basement with 3 clocks that all tell different times. To me, that doesn't come across as cozy. It comes across like a little scary, to be honest. But you know, overall, it was interesting to read. I am, however, disappointed because there is a cat on the center of this cover, and not once does this cat show up in this book. So this cover lied to me. I was promised a cat, and it did not deliver. So that's why the next book I picked up is The Cat Who Saved Books by Sosuke Natsukawa. This very much does have a cat in it. A talking cat, matter of fact. He is so sassy. He's an asshole. I love it. He's how I imagine if Saxon, my male cat, could speak. I kind of imagine he would be like Tiger, the cat in this book, which is like honest but a jerk. And I love him. He's amazing. This to me does give cozier vibes because it's kind of whimsical. There is like a speculative element to it. It's just this cat, this teenage boy, his grandfather's died and he's depressed. His grandfather owned this used bookshop, and a cat shows up, a talking cat named Tiger shows up and takes him on a quest to save various books from people who are doing them harm in some way or doing the books a disservice. And so it's essentially, so far I'm only 44 pages in, it's essentially just them discussing books and the power that they have on people. And it's real sweet. I've smiled a lot, mostly because of Tiger. He is wonderful. I do like this main character so far. He's obviously like not in a good mindset, but I can see that he has good people around him, and he has the potential for growth throughout this story, to kind of learn to embrace the support that is being given to him, though he hasn't really been able to do so in the past. He's isolated himself, and I think he's gonna learn to open up by the end of the story. So I am liking this one. My battery is about to die, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I just wanted to update you on finishing this and starting a new book, and I will see you later. I'll probably update once I finish this one. I'll see you then. Bye. I'm back. This is apparently the vlog where I keep forgetting to update until I'm in my bedroom and I'm just like switching angles. So here we are, new angle unlocked. This is my tiny manga shelf, but I am updating because I did finish The Cat Who Saved Books by Sosuke Natsukawa. I ended up giving this 3.75 stars. I don't usually do like the quarter star ratings, but I didn't quite think this was a 4-star, but I still liked it better than Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I did think this was more of like a fun book. I didn't take it too seriously, like a lot of the messages and stuff, like they weren't the most profound, unique thing in the world, and I wasn't expecting that from it, considering one of the main characters is a talking cat named Tiger the Tabby. It seemed like I wasn't supposed to, you know, think it was like this huge masterful or like literary masterpiece. It was just a silly fun time, and I really appreciated that. That is what I need in this moment. So I did end up really enjoying this for the most part, mostly because it is a silly goofy time, and I thought it was sweet. It's kind of like a love letter to books and reading, and I thought that was nice to read about. I don't read too many books that focus on books like this. I think I mentioned before, but I really love the Tabby character. I didn't even realize until the end of the book when I was reading, like skimming over the translation notes, the cat's not gendered. So I was assuming the cat was a guy, because they have a deep voice and it's always described as deep, but it's a non-gendered cat. They're wonderful. They're so sassy. The banter with them is honestly adorable, and it made me laugh. I did like the overall character arc, the storyline, as far as the main character Rintaro goes, how he was in this kind of state of depression and grief and self-isolation, and throughout this story it's really about him, I mean, expressing his love for books and changing people's minds, helping them kind of decide figure out what's important is their love for books, not necessarily doing all these things that they assume will benefit books. But we also mainly see him grow and start to understand that he has like a good support system around him, and that he can choose what he wants to do. He doesn't just have to go with the flow of things now that this big aspect of his life, which was his grandfather, is gone. So it's nice seeing him kind of come into his own and accept the help that is being offered to him by all these people around him. The only reason I feel like I can't give it a higher rating is because there are flaws. Like I said, it's not a book you take too seriously. It is a bit repetitive because he goes essentially on 4 different little quests, and it's all just about him saving books. Saxon! Speaking of a sassy tabby cat, look who we got right here. Oh yeah, he doesn't like to be held. Why are you yelling at my door? We're not in the same room for 1 minute and you're screaming. Oh god, your sister's at it now. God, what was I saying? It is a bit repetitive just because it's him going on 4 quests to like save books, and it's just essentially him professing his love for books and convincing other people of their love for books over and over again. So that's not the best thing in the world. It is also kind of does, with it being 4 separate quests, does kind of read like short stories, and as we established earlier in this vlog, short stories are not my favorite thing. And additionally, there was like a secondary character that I didn't necessarily care for. I liked that she was there to support the main character, but there was like a whole inkling of romance that I didn't think was necessary. I also felt like there was another side character that we didn't see. Like, he showed up at the beginning, but I felt like we could have kind of had like a trio of friends, because he was obviously trying to support the main character as well, but we didn't really delve into him at all or bring him too much back into the story. I think that was kind of sacrificed for the sake of like adding in this kind of romantic figure, and I didn't like that. I didn't think they're not in a relationship. It's just like they clearly have like a teenage crush on each other. So this is by no means a romance. I just didn't think like that aspect was necessary for the story, and I think we could have introduced or delved more into that other secondary character, Akiba or Akiba. I don't know how the emphasis is on those syllables, but I felt like he was promising from the start, and I was excited to see more from him, but we just didn't get that. So there are just some things that are lacking in the story that I don't love, but overall, like I said, it was a fun time. I do love this cover, and it was like just a sweet, happy story, so I will definitely be keeping this. And I wanted to update, I finished that. I am starting from a next book, Sweet Bean Paste by, I can't remember the author off the top of my head. I know that their first name is Durian, which I think is funny because it's like the fruit durian. That's how it's spelled. I can't remember their last name. I have started that, but I'm gonna wait to talk about my feelings for when I'm about halfway through. It is less than 300, but over 200 pages, so I'll pop in at like 100, 150 and give my feelings on that. But yes, that is the update. I have finished the second book, and I will continue on to my third and final book for this vlog. I'll see you once I've made some progress. Bye. Hello, I just wanted to pop on real quick and talk about Sweet Bean Paste by Durian Sukegawa. I am over halfway through. I'm not going to talk too much about my feelings because I feel like I won't have anything to say at the end if I do. But I don't think I mentioned what this book is about, and I wanted to hop on and do that before I wrapped up all my feelings on it. But currently I am 128 pages into this. I will say that I am really enjoying it so far, but this is about a middle-aged man who works at a pancake shop, essentially. He makes dorayaki, which is pancakes filled with sweet bean paste. And he is kind of just like going through the motions of his life. He has a criminal background, so he can't, you know, do what he wanted to do in life, which was be a writer. And he's working in the shop every day to pay back a debt, and he's really not happy with his life. He's got a lot of like dark thoughts. He's constantly drinking. He's just really not doing great. And then one day, Tokue, Tokue, I hope I said that correctly, who is an older lady with some physical deformities, comes to the shop and wants to be hired on to make the sweet bean paste. And turns out she makes the best sweet bean paste. But Tokue has been through a lot in her life as well. And it is kind of about them growing together and like growing a friendship together, and him learning to accept people, because he was really hesitant regarding her and her age and her disabilities, but he's really growing to like learn. He's learning more about what she has going on, or what she did have, and is seeing how other people react to this disability that she has, and he's learning to kind of alter how he thinks about those sorts of things as well. We also have a young girl named Wakana, who's not as present, but is more present later in the book, and who has kind of a troubled home life, and that Tokue has kind of taken underneath her wing in some ways, because she is a regular at this pancake shop. So it's a bit of a found family story, which is really nice. I won't go, like I said, I won't go too much into my thoughts here. Like I said, I do really, as of right now, I'm really enjoying it. I did not know that we were going to talk so much about disability and a specific illness, which I will not mention. I don't think it's all that much of a spoiler. I didn't realize that, based on the description, that she had what she did. And so we're seeing a lot of how historically people with her condition have been treated, and how they're still presently not treated very well, as is the case with disabled people in general. People just tend to look at them, kind of view them as less than. But it's interesting because I was not aware of this portion of Japanese history, and how disabilities were viewed in modern Japan. So that's interesting to read about. I do fear that this book, however, might hurt me in the end. So we'll have to see. I'll let you know in just a minute when I come back, but I just wanted to pop in and say what this is about. Those are like my very basic baseline thoughts as of right now, and I will come back soon, and once I finish this, and give you all of my thoughts and opinions. Bye. Okay, so I am back to close out this vlog because I did finish Sweet Bean Paste by Durian Sukegawa. I ended up giving this a 4-star. I really enjoyed this book. This is definitely more hard-hitting than the other books that I read in this vlog. I know Before the Coffee Gets Cold, I mean, there were like some more serious aspects to both of the other two, but I'd say that this one contains like death, disability, oppression due to disability, thoughts of suicide, things like that. So definitely keep that in mind. I would say overall this is very much a cozy book, but it isn't always cozy. There are those darker moments that sneak in at times, but I really did enjoy this book. I liked the found family aspect of it. I especially liked the dynamic between the main character Sentaro and the older lady Tokue. I thought she was just very sweet and exactly what he needed, and she needed him, I believe, as well in this story. So it's nice to see these kind of like unlikely pair come together, especially when they didn't start out on necessarily the right foot. Sentaro was very wary of allowing Tokue to work with him, and a lot of that is due to her disability, which is not listed on the back of the book, but I feel like I shouldn't not mention what her disability is, or I guess her illness was. She's disabled due to an illness, but if somebody considers that a spoiler, I guess you can skip ahead 10 seconds or whatever, but she has Hansen's disease, which is not something that I personally was aware of. I know it as leprosy, and I've only ever heard of it contextually as far as like the in the context of the Bible. So it was interesting to learn a little bit about that disease and how it affects people permanently, can disfigure and deform certain aspects, leave them blind, things like that. I was not aware of it. I really had only ever heard of it as like an incurable disease that people stayed away from in biblical times. So I was not aware of what it was like in the modern world. And we also see like some aspects as far as discrimination within at least Japanese culture. I'll have to do more research to see kind of how this is more widespread. But in Japan, they were segregated. People who had Hansen's disease were segregated and had to live in specific communities for a long time. And so Tokwe is leaving this community and trying to kind of build a friendship with people who don't also have this disease, because that's all she's ever known for a long portion of her life. And I do know that I read the author's note, and he did do interviews with patients and survivors of Hansen's disease. I looked through some reviews. I didn't see anybody necessarily talking about that representation, so I have to assume that it was a decent representation, and most of it was just kind of talking about the various historical aspects regarding Hansen's disease and acts that were overturned so that people could actually interact with society and not be locked away. I mean, this wasn't like an own voices thing, but to be fair, I don't think he was delving too far into that, more or less just giving context. And then I did, again, also from his author's note, this book apparently is inspired by his thoughts on like philosophy and the meaning of life, which is interesting. And we see that through Tokwe. She's very much this motherly kind of parental figure, even to our main character, who is a grown man, but he lacks that parental figure in his life, and so she takes on that and leaves him with a lot of like somewhat simple but good advice regarding his self-worth. So it's really sweet to see that, and I enjoy reading about it. It does kind of give you food for thought as far as the whole philosophy that this author is implementing. I don't think it's anything super mind-blowing, but it is really sweet, and overall, like I said, I did enjoy this book. However, it's definitely not without its faults. This was very much to me like a slice of life story, in the sense that it didn't feel entirely complete, and that's fine because it is slice of life. We don't get like all the answers by the end, or we don't see where the characters are gonna end up after this, and I don't think the author was intending to do that, but it does leave something to be desired. I also think that Wakana, who is the young girl that Tokwe kind of takes under her wings and Sentaro kind of starts to do as well, I feel like we could have gotten more development from her. I just feel like I got a baseline understanding what her situation is, but it implied that there was much more going on, and I think that maybe this book could have been longer and just delved a little more into her story, and I would have felt even more attached to these characters and would have appreciated the story more. But like I said, it is overall just a little slice of life short book, and overall I enjoyed it. I think that it did have that cozy atmosphere despite the darker topics that it discusses. So I'm happy with a 4-star rating for this. But with that does wrap up this vlog. These are the 3 books that I read, and luckily I had a pretty good time. The last reading vlog that I did, which should have been the one uploaded before this, I ended up having pretty much all misses, and the books just got worse as the vlog went on. I'm glad to say that this was the opposite. I ended up with a 3.5, a 3.75, and a 4-star, and I overall did really enjoy this, and I'm gonna have to pick up more Japanese translated kind of cozy healing fiction. There are some that are on my radar. Maybe I'll do a part 2, or maybe I'll just slip into other kind of genre fiction vlogs. The one that obviously pops to my mind first is like romantasy. I haven't read any of that. I haven't read any cozy mysteries either, so that could be one that I do. If you guys have any suggestions about genre fiction that I can kind of dip my toe into, see if it's something that I enjoy, then feel free to let me know. But overall, like I said, I'm happy with what I've read in this vlog, and I'm excited to read more of this genre. That will be the end of this, and I will see you guys in my next vlog. Bye.